want to keep the conversation going on this a little bit more now. Bobby Eberle, owner of GOP USA, and Liam Kerr, director of Massachusetts Democrats for Education Reform. Liam, let's start with you. Is there room on the fence for businesses on this?
Well, it's been pretty clear that, what corporations are acting on is Biden's voters and their customers, not on necessarily one elected official, especially not the elected Democrats in Georgia. But when it comes to voting rights, after the insurrection, CEOs have been pretty clear. There's no room on the fence anymore.
So, Bobby, are companies almost in a way forced to take a side in today's social environment, do you think? Why else would they want to wade into a debate like this?
Well, they want to wade in because so much is driven by these ESG ratings, where companies now are more concerned about, how their stance is on environmental or social or governance issues, rather than just supplying a good or a service. There's plenty of room on the fence for companies because their consumers are Republicans, Democrats, independents, black, white, Hispanic. It doesn't matter. They just want to buy a Coke. They just want to go to a game. Let the politicians battle it out. But this whole idea that these big corporations need to come down on these issues, and they're all coming down on the left side of the issues, it's just ridiculous. And the thing is, the voter ID, there's a great report that you laid out, but the one thing that your previous guest kept talking about is this word controversial, because voter ID is actually not controversial at all. It transcends party and it transcends race. There's majority support, overwhelming majority support, Republicans, Democrats, independents, blacks, white, Hispanics, all for voter ID. So this idea that these companies are coming down and saying we're for the people or something like that, what people are they talking about? Because it's not the majority of America.
Liam, they do insert themselves into these discussions and controversies, if you will, because they do donate to campaigns. And that's where I think, at least in this case, with Delta in particular, is where it started.
Yeah, and this is all in the context of the big lie that started before the election, happened on election night in November, all the way through the weeks after the election leading to the insurrection. And you see tremendous pressure, in part because Republicans have made a choice as a party. They lost the election. They lost the Senate. This focus on Georgia is one thing, and on this law is one thing, but this is about the broader political reality that is not connected really to any sort of Republican offense of trying to persuade. It's all about suppression, not persuasion. And it's clear the Republicans have made a choice, and it's a bridge too far for corporate America and most Americans who say, you're coming after our democracy, you're coming after the health of our republic, and that's not good for business.
And what they get in return, Bobby, is what we're seeing. Talk of boycotts and beyond. Do you think that is the way to go for people to speak their minds here?
Well, I think people are speaking out against these corporations. But the thing is, if you start throwing the word suppression out there, you have to ask, is the COVID vaccine racist? Are they trying to suppress minorities? Because you need an ID to go get the shot. So why aren't they boycotting the vaccine? They're encouraging everybody to get the vaccine. You have to have an ID to get the vaccine. And yet this voter law, which is used across the country, majority of states have voter ID. And again, it's very popular, but these corporations are taking a side of the left, and people are speaking out. I'm glad the Georgia governor is holding his ground on this. I'm glad the legislature is holding their ground. I think you'll see the vast majority of people, if you look at the polls, they're turning away from the woke sports. They're turning away from these companies. They just want to watch a game and drink a Coke.
Where does it stop, though, Bobby? I mean, the PGA is going to keep its tournament in Georgia, and I know the Masters is this weekend, as we've discussed. But I know Marco Rubio asked the commissioner, Manfred, would he give up his membership at Augusta? And the slope gets pretty slippery. But when you look at all of these things, and then also here, as you're pointing out, these are social movements in sports and the impact on ratings. This goes far and deep beyond just the idea of pulling one all-star game. In fact, it's going much deeper than that.
Well, right. You have to ask yourself, what kind of code now are these entities, sports companies, leagues, corporations going to live by? Because they are in bed with China, who violates human rights. They don't seem to have a problem with that. They don't have a problem stepping into left-wing politics. What about the human rights violations in China? What about the conservatives, Republicans, independents across the country that are turned off by these actions? It's just they're driven by left-wing boardrooms and not the consumers.
I'll give you the last word there, Liam. We're running out of time.
So this is part of our new reality where the actual American people are far removed from where Republican primary voters are. Those Republican primary voters have the party captured. And what we see in the economy, 71% of counties, 71% of the economy is in counties that voted for Biden. And you know what? Idaho gets 2 senators, but that's a pretty small market. And so Republicans are barely clinging on to power by exposing the maps. And that doesn't work when it comes to the economy. That doesn't work when it comes to customers. And it shouldn't work in our democracy.
All right, Bobby Eberle and Liam Kerr, we appreciate your insight tonight on the conversation. Thanks for joining us.
Okay, friends, thanks so much for watching. And before you go, please hit that subscribe button, hit that bell so you'll be notified. And here's a special video just for you so you can watch even more of the 13-minute news hour. And don't forget to check out GOPUSA.com for the best in conservative news and commentary. We'll see you next time.